Hi, I'm Jean Meyer, student at Jacksonville University, and I'm currently enrolled in the A&P 2 class. Today I'm going to talk about the kidney, and I chose the kidney for a couple different reasons. First of all, I find the kidney a very interesting organ. I find that all of the functions of the kidney are so important to our body, and I feel that the kidney in itself just is amazing. The other reason I chose the kidney is because I have some personal experience. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with severe hydronephrosis. Upon seeing my urologist, the first treatment was to place a stent, which I had a stent for about 6 weeks, during which time some more tests were done to determine the effects of that prolonged period of time in which I had the hydronephrosis. And it was determined at that time that I only had 26% function of my right kidney. So clearly I had sustained a significant amount of damage. When the stent was removed, the hydronephrosis returned. So I was given the choice between having the right kidney removed or having an operation called a pyeloplasty. I opted for the pyeloplasty, and what that was is my urologist went in, and their intent was to remove the section of ureter that was damaged and then to reconnect it. When they got in there to remove that area of ureter that was damaged, they found something very interesting. The way my urologist described it was, if this was my ureter, typically both blood vessels are on one side. And he didn't name the blood vessels, but I wonder if it was the renal artery and the renal vein. However, what he found was that there was one on each side. Therefore, the blood vessels were strangulating the ureter, and that was what was causing the hydronephrosis. So what they did is they removed the section of ureter that was damaged, reattached it. Prior to reattaching it, they moved the blood vessel over so that both of them were on the appropriate side. And then put a stent in, which I had for about 8 weeks. When that came out, I had further testing done, and I've had any problems, any kind of issues since then. So let's move on to the kidney itself and to talk a little bit about that. The kidney are two bean-shaped organs that extract waste from blood, balanced body fluids. They form urine, and they aid in other important functions in the body. They reside against the back muscles in the upper abdominal cavity. They sit opposite each other on either side of the spine. The right kidney sits a little bit lower than the left to accommodate the liver. When it comes to components of the urinary system, the kidney are multifunctional powerhouses of activity. Some of the core action of the kidneys include waste excretion. The kidneys filter out toxins, excess salts, and urea, a nitrogen-based waste created by cell metabolism. Urea is synthesized in the liver and transported through the blood to the kidneys for removal. Water level balance, as kidneys are key in chemical breakdown of urine, they react to changes in the body's water level throughout the day. As water intake decreases, the kidneys adjust accordingly and leave water in the body instead of helping excrete it. Blood pressure regulation. The kidneys need constant pressure to filter the blood. When it drops too low, the kidneys increase the pressure. One way is by producing a blood vessel constricting protein, angiotensin, that also signals the body to retain sodium and water. Both the constriction and the retention help to restore the normal blood pressure. Red blood cell regulation. When kidneys don't get enough oxygen, they send out a distress call in the form of erythropoietin, a hormone that stimulates the bone marrow to produce more oxygen-carrying red blood cells. And lastly, acid regulation. As cells metabolize, they produce acid. Foods we eat either increase the acid in our body or neutralize it. If the body is to function properly, it needs to keep a healthy balance of these chemicals, and the kidneys do just that. So I'm going to go ahead and put on my safety gear. I have my apron. I'm going to go ahead and put my goggles and my gloves on, and then we're going to talk about the kidney itself. So here we have our sheep kidney, which I have dissected. I'm going to go ahead and put it together here and just show you the outside. So the outside area of the kidney is called the renal capsule. It's the outer membrane, and actually I think the renal capsule has probably been removed here. the outer membrane that surrounds the kidney. It is thin but tough and fibrous. This area is called the hilum. It's the area of kidney through which the ureter leaves the kidney and the other structures including blood vessels, lymphatic vessels, and nerves enter or leave the kidney. I don't know that I have the renal artery. I could not find it on here, but this is the renal vein. The renal artery, however, branches off of the aorta, bringing waste-filled blood into the kidney for filtering into the nephrons. The renal artery is further subdivided into several branches inside the kidney. Each minute, the kidneys receive 20% of the pumped blood by the heart. Some arteries nourish the kidney cells themselves. The renal vein, which is right here, removes the filtered blood from the kidneys and brings it to the inferior vena cava. This is the ureter, which collects filtrate and urine from renal pelvis and takes it to the bladder for urination. So let's go ahead and look at the inside of the kidney. So this outer area here, that's the darker color on both sides here, is called the cortex. It's the outer region of the kidney. Extensions of the cortical tissue contains about 1 million filtering nephrons. That's all around in here. The renal columns go down into this way. They're extension of the renal cortex in between the renal pyramids, which extend down into here. And the renal pyramids are really difficult to see on these dissected pieces, but they're down into here. It allows the cortex to be better anchored. Each column consists of lines of blood vessels and urinary tubes and fibrous material. This section in here, this pinkish section all the way around, is called the medulla, and it's the inner region of the kidney. It contains about 8 to 12 renal pyramids, and the pyramids enter into the calyx, which there's minor calyxes and there's major. The major one is down into this section in here, and the minor ones are up into here. Here's like a minor one right into there. The medullary pyramids formed by the collecting ducts are the inner part of the kidney, and that's in through here. The calyx are extensions of the renal pelvis. They channel urine from the pyramids to the renal pelvis, and the urine is formed in the kidney. It passes through a renal papilla at the apex into the minor calyx, and there's 2 or 3 minor calyxes that converge to form the major, which is down in here as I had showed you earlier. Right down in here is the major, through which urine passes before continuing to the renal pelvis, which is right here. The renal pelvis is a basin-like area that collects the urine from the nephrons. It narrows to the upper end of the ureter. So it narrows into here, right here, goes into the ureter, and then goes down and into the bladder. So again, here's the cortex, here's the medulla, which contains the renal columns, the pyramids, the calyx, minor here, major down in here, renal pelvis, and then that goes down into the ureter. And that concludes my lab on the kidney. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something. Have a good evening.